Good morning and welcome to day 5 of GCP Tech Week. The title for this event is RITE's 5th Summit, and we have a fantastic program for you this morning. My name is Courtney Diorio, and I will be the host of today's program and the webinar organizer for today. Before we get started, I would like to thank all of our speakers this morning, my GCP and RITE colleagues for helping produce the RITE Summit, all RITE board members, past and present, and to all of you for joining us this morning or via a recorded version of this session. As RITE's Executive Director and the Senior Director, Tech Talent for the Greater Cleveland Partnership, I'm delighted to be with all of you assembled today. Now in its 5th year, the RITE Summit is the premier IT talent event for Northeast Ohio employers, educators, youth development, workforce service providers, and economic development stakeholders. We share a vision to build a highly skilled, diverse workforce that drives economic vitality and prosperity. It's hard to believe that our first summit was back in 2013. We had 80 students and about 100 professionals coming together. We launched our first Passport to IT Careers program. Our last summit was in 2016. And we added an afternoon session and made it a whole day-long set of activities with student programming in the morning and professional programming in the afternoon. Clearly, the times have changed and our summit format has changed along with it. These summits are a great example of one of the 3 things that RITE does to accelerate the development of a diverse, highly skilled IT workforce. Undergirding all that we do is our work to mobilize employers, their leadership, involvement, and support to influence IT talent development. We also, as a workforce alliance, build regional capacity through collaboration, performance accountability, and shared resources. Last but not least, some of you may know the work we do to deliver programming that builds interest, skills, experience, and connections students and job seekers need to pursue IT careers. The past 10 years have been a whirlwind. The past 2 years as a part of the Greater Cleveland Partnership, very exciting. I'm equally excited today about the 2 aspects of our summit this year. Given the virtual environment many of us find ourselves living, working, and playing in, we decided to bulk up our website with new information and resources to propel our work together. Let me take a minute to give you a brief tour of what you will find. We just released a new research publication based on knowledge we've gleaned over the years and through partnerships with Team Neo and Connexus Neo on a survey last year and recent reports published by Team Neo. At the end of today's program, we are going to give you a sneak preview of a new go-to digital resource on all things IT careers. You will hear more today about our work to develop a regional performance dashboard. We now have our strawman dashboard up online on our website. And last but not least, we cannot run programs for students and job seekers without the individual contributions of IT professionals from across the region. We are working within GCP to systematize the way that we engage volunteers, and we have a new sign-up form for our Procore volunteers. Now, I would like to introduce my colleague, Doug Wenger. Doug is the executive in residence with GCP Tech, and he has been the architect of this week's Tech Week and is going to join us to give us a recap on the events of this week. Doug? Hey, Doug.
Thank you very much, Courtney, and I hope everybody can see or hear me. It has been quite a week, and I just wanted to give a quick recap of Tech Week 2020. Tech Week has been in operation for over 15 years. This year was probably, by all accounts, the most unique for sure. It started almost a year ago with planning and programming ideas. We were ready to go for April, late April this year, or yes, 2020 this year. Seems like a long time ago now, but And of course, everybody knows what happened there. We rescheduled it for this week that we're just concluding and converted it to a virtual format. We had extensive discussions with other tech councils from across the country, and we had decided to put together a substantially similar package of programming for this week. It has been very successful in my view. We've had almost 750 registered attendees, and we've had events that have occurred throughout the week. A couple of highlights. We have a program called Tech Tank, which is where we bring technology companies in the region and match them up with boardrooms of executives in the enterprise technology shops from around the region, including representatives of Eaton, KeyBank, Progressive, and others, large and small. We were sold out. We had 6 tech companies, about 25 boardroom advisors, and a total of about 50 participants altogether. That was very well received, and that was solid. This particular series of events in the RITE education and workforce space is also a highlight. One exciting thing that I happened to be able to sit in on a little bit yesterday was the IT pathway program, and that to me is right what we should be doing. I mean, very much in line with trying to get people to understand and visualize and dream and inspire them to take up a technology career. There's many different pathways that one can take to become a technology professional in our region, and I thought that event there was really hands-on and really got into it. So I appreciate all the work that Courtney and the team have done in that and the other programs such as this one. We had a terrific women in technology event on Tuesday called Lessons in Leadership. We had 6 distinguished female technology leaders who spent their time mentoring others throughout the morning, and that was put on by our partner Tech Elevator. It was the second year that we did that. It was much bigger and better, and I continue to feel that that's a great program that I continue to be amazed at how great that program is and is continuing to be, and hopefully it can grow in the future. Yeah, we had a terrific Best of Tech virtual event. Our colleague Bill Blousy was honored at that event on Wednesday night. We had over, I think, about 200 registered attendees to that, and it was just a fun, great atmosphere. We had our first Neotech 2020 conference, which was held Wednesday morning on innovative technologies. We had speakers from all over the country and about 170 registered attendees for that. So what's next? What do we do from here? We're not sure. We're going to debrief and determine, do we go back to our original format? Do we stay with this format? There's a lot of questions, but we certainly are enthused and encouraged by the support that we've had from our sponsors and our speakers and moderators. So I hope that Tech Week continues to get bigger and better, and with partners such as RITE and others that we partnered with this week, and hopefully in the future, I think the future is bright for Tech Week. So with that, what I'd like to do is move this on to Jessica Cohen. I'd like to introduce Jessica to you. She is the Verizon Manager of State Government Affairs. We're grateful for Verizon's support and as part of all of our sponsors for Tech Week who help make these events happen. And I'm excited and honored to be introducing Jessica to this panel in this program. And Jessica's going to join us after a video. So Jessica, it's over to you.
I understand the video froze. I am trying to replay. Jessica, it has frozen. I apologize. So I would love if you could share some remarks, and perhaps we'll be able to show this video momentarily.
Sure. Yes, and of course this happens at all occasions, including Tech Week. Good morning. Thanks so much, Courtney and Doug. My name's Jessica Cohen. I lead Verizon's community engagement, philanthropy, and government affairs for Northern Ohio. I'm based right here in Cleveland. We hopefully will get to hear a little bit more about Keziah's story and get a glimpse at the impact Verizon is having here at home when it comes to digital inclusion, building Cleveland's tech talent pipeline, and facilitating remote learning. Millions of under-resourced American students lack the access to technology and the skills they need to succeed in today's digital world. In an increasingly technology-dependent economy, and especially now more than ever, it's really important to help provide under-resourced students with the skills needed to put them on a path for success. Since 2012, the Verizon Innovative Learning Program has provided over $535 million in market value towards STEM education, helping under-resourced communities bridge the digital divide. In Cleveland, Verizon partners with a number of public middle schools across the city to provide technology, access, and innovative learning programs that transform the learning experience, as well as the tools necessary for remote learning to enable students to develop the skills, knowledge, and capabilities needed to thrive in a digital world. We have also made and still have exclusive wireless discounts available to make connectivity more affordable for teachers, K through 12 and university, and students, as well as our nurses and first responders. Cleveland is home to the nation's first Verizon Innovative Learning 5G lab. That's the state-of-the-art experiential learning space at the middle school in the video. In today's digital world, access is only the beginning. Verizon wants to promote technology as a tool to improve communities, education, and the workforce. To do that, we have set a goal of providing 10 million youth with digital skills training by 2030 and bringing 5G technology to 100 more schools by just 2021. And that's already started right here in Cleveland. During these trying times, our CEO, Hans Vestberg, has led us in ensuring our network, the fastest, most reliable in the nation, enables the continued commerce, distance learning, and connections to family, friends, and community on which we all rely. Building our 5G network nationwide to enable faster connectivity and support the development of technology and applications is part of that commitment. I'm so proud as a Clevelander that Cleveland is one of the first 35 cities in the country with 5G wireless service. It's an honor to be here today to represent Verizon's support of RITE's work in Northeast Ohio and all of Tech Week. At Verizon, we create the networks that move the world forward, and together we will move Cleveland forward into the fourth industrial revolution. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica. We are going to have the expert behind the webinar attempt the video on her end.
Thanks so much. I'm so glad that worked because I love hearing about Keziah's story. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. We appreciate Verizon's support of Cleveland students and also GCP Tech Week. Good morning. My name's Shauna Marbury, and I'm the General Counsel and Senior Vice President for Talent at the Greater Cleveland Partnership. We're proud to have RITE's programs and initiatives as a part of GCP's talent agenda. And on behalf of GCP, I'm pleased to welcome all of you to RITE's 5th Summit. Doug, it was also great to hear your Tech Week highlights earlier. We're certainly happy about the full week, and I'm excited to have the summit as our culminating event. My role today is to give you a brief snapshot of the Greater Cleveland Partnership. GCP is Northeast Ohio's premier economic development and business advocacy organization. We work singularly and collaboratively on efforts to boost the economic vitality of our region. However, we recognize that economic prosperity for the region cannot be fully achieved without addressing broader barriers that have historically prevented many of our citizens from reaching their full potential. Personal, cultural, institutional, and organizational discrimination, as well as systemic racism, maintains privileges for some while creating and sustaining oppression for others. Consequently, GCP supports initiatives that promote the improvement of our neighborhoods and our urban education systems, as well as facilitating the effective preparation of our local workforce to meet the needs of current and emerging industries. We are committed to developing and pursuing economic development strategies that take into account the broad range of factors that must be confronted to create a competitive and equitable economic and social environment. The breadth of GCP's work includes both traditional chamber activities, such as membership and advocacy, as well as economic development-focused initiatives, including GCP's Small Business Division, COSI, Business Growth and Development, Equity and Inclusion, as mentioned, Real Estate, Technology, and Talent. Our mission in GCP's Talent Division is to connect employers to talent solutions and more aggressively address the region's most critical talent gaps. With the support of our board, members, and partners in the workforce ecosystem, GCP is building a more efficient, sustainable, and impactful way to facilitate business engagement in education and workforce. Not only are we leveraging our broader organizational capabilities, we are also developing a strong set of best practices around sector partnerships. Through sector partnerships, a proven workforce development strategy, we are addressing talent challenges in manufacturing, healthcare, construction, and now leveraging RITE and GCP Tech IT. I'm particularly pleased to share that we were recently selected by the Cuyahoga County Workforce Funders Group to serve as the intermediary for the Workforce Connect IT sector partnership that will launch this fall. You will hear more about ways you can connect to this exciting effort later in this session. Now it's my honor to introduce one of your keynote speakers, Bill Blousy. Bill is Eaton's Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer. As Chairman of RITE's Regional Leadership Board, much of RITE's success is directly correlated to Bill's personal passion and commitment to growing and creating a diverse IT pipeline in Northeast Ohio. The work and continuous learning that he dedicates to RITE serves to propel our impact on IT in the region. So before turning it over to you, Bill, I just want to say thank you for all that you have done and for the deep engagement of your team at Eaton, who've been instrumental to RITE's growth and success. Take it away, Bill.
Great. Hey, thanks so much, Shauna, and thanks for the kind words. I certainly appreciate all the terrific work you are doing to build talent and a diverse workforce in the region. And as you indicated, I know that extends well beyond RITE with all the things that GCP is doing. And RITE, I mean, we're just so happy to be part of the GCP family and part of a group that is dedicated to economic development and building talent in the region. Hey, it's really great to be here, and I'm honored to be part of RITE and Tech Week. It's such a great and long-standing event, and we owe a lot of gratitude to Doug Wenger, to GCP, for really continuing this tradition during such a difficult time. I mean, you've done a phenomenal job, Doug, and I appreciate you keeping it moving forward. And Jessica, what you shared, absolutely phenomenal. I absolutely want to spend some time with you on inclusion and getting past this digital divide in the region. Just absolutely terrific what Verizon is doing in the community. I do want to take a second to share a little bit of RITE's history. More importantly, I want to spend just a quick moment talking about maybe where we go from here and what's next with regards to RITE and how we might move forward as a region. It's a little hard to believe that RITE has been together for over 10 years, and I'm incredibly proud of what RITE has accomplished, really under Courtney's leadership. We'd be nowhere without Courtney and the team and all the work that they do in the region. I just want to share one of those accomplishments, one that I'm particularly proud of, with all the work that we're doing with high school students in the region as well. The inaugural event started with Passport to IT Careers back in 2013, and it was established, as Doug described yesterday, to really educate high school students on the various roles and experiences in IT. Since that time, since 2013, over 6,000 students from over 200 high schools across the region, from Lorain to Cleveland to Akron to Mahoning Valley, have spent time learning about the great experiences that we all have in IT. I mean, how cool is it to really share our experiences about what we do in IT each day with our youth? It's just an opportunity for all of us to share what we do and the success and opportunities that we've had. And these events, I mean, that activity was clearly made possible through a coalition of educators, companies, and great community organizations under RITE's leadership. It wouldn't happen without that coalition. This is one of RITE's accomplishments, yet I'll be perfectly honest, it is not enough. There is much more to be done. If you look at any of the statistics around open jobs and supply in our region, there are still almost 10,000 open jobs in Northeast Ohio alone. Think how many great paying jobs exist in IT that are going unfilled each day. Each of our organizations continue to really struggle to fill those roles, to find the right talent. And even more importantly, women and minorities still find the path to IT very difficult to understand and frankly to achieve. We can do much better with regards to how we're positioning IT in the region and developing that diverse and inclusive workforce. At RITE, we feel that that is a big part of our role, and we think the way we get there is really through a set of clear success measures. Having clear objectives and measures is really what each of us do in our organizations each day. It's how I run IT at Eaton. We have very distinct objectives, success measures, and we review them every month with regards to our progress and opportunities to improve. We really think as a result of pulling these new set of measures or KPIs together that we can make a difference. We develop them with our RITE Regional Leadership Board and several other partners in the region that have been instrumental in shaping the direction of RITE. We really hope these KPIs will rally the entire region around a set of core beacon measures, ones that we can all get behind in order to continue the development of a diverse IT workforce in our region. It's clear that IT, as Shauna said, IT is an instrumental part of the regional strategy to drive growth. It's part of how we achieve prosperity and create opportunities in Northeast Ohio. Listening to Doug talk about Tech Week, it really is why Tech Week is such an important event, as it highlights all the great work that you don't often see in information technology around our entire region. And frankly, it points out that a lot of things are happening that create terrific opportunities for the underserved and for our youth. At RITE, we can champion these new metrics, and I want to spend a moment on them and hold ourselves accountable. But frankly, we only make progress with the help of the entire region, and that means all of you. And really to that end, we are creating a new coalition called the Northeast Ohio 50 to help contribute to this new set of KPIs. And we're inviting all of you to join the Northeast Ohio 50. So please help us. As Courtney already mentioned, we've published our progress on our website and invite you to check it out. Please weigh in by reaching out to us. Also, if you're an employer, let us know if you're interested in joining the Northeast Ohio 50 and being part of what we're doing to create a sustainable IT workforce in the region, one that is diverse, inclusive, and creates opportunities for many. Courtney, why don't you spend a couple minutes talking about Northeast Ohio 50? And I appreciate the opportunity to spend a few thoughts, share a few thoughts with you, and certainly I'll be back on in a couple minutes. So thanks again.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. So everyone should see the slide up on the screen. This gives you a little bit more detail on the theory behind the NEO 50. And maybe what I'll do is just pop back one slide to say that while there is publicly available data that we are mining actively with and through partners, there is other data that can only be sourced by employers. And so the NEO 50 is designed kind of like an S&P index to represent a composite of companies that together will comprise a data set on KPIs that only companies can provide. So the first one is work-based learning. We know that internships, co-ops, apprenticeships, project-based learning can be game changers and lead to increasing rates of employment for students. Employers want experience. They want to see students who have a good grasp on the business environment and what it's like to work in the business environment. And the only way to get there is through these work-based learning experiences. So we need some baseline data to track our progress over time. Secondly, very much related to that is we'd like to track those experiences and how they convert to employment. So one of the things we learned 10 years ago from the employers that formed the RITE board is that somewhere around 60 to 70% of the internships at that time were converting to employment. So these are a true and actionable pipeline for employers to fill their open job roles through their work-based learning and particularly their internship pipelines. The third metric that we need folks to help us with is around straight up local hires. So in the cases previously, we're talking about folks who are matriculating often through colleges and universities or non-traditional education and training programs that may have these experiences incorporated. We also want to track through workforce programs, folks that are being hired locally. So are the folks within our communities, particularly those who are underrepresented in the workforce, women and people of color, are they getting employment at increasing rates? So these are three particular metrics that can only be provided by employers. And so we are announcing at today's summit the development of this NEO 50 and are going to be working very closely with our internal partners within the Greater Cleveland Partnership, particularly with our Equity and Inclusion Department that has for 15 years been running a capability around D&I practices. And so they already have a process in place, a capability in place, and many employers who are participating in that work. And so we are going to leverage that capability as we work with employers to build out this NEO 50. So with that, I'd like to bring you back, Bill, so we can shift into the next phase of our program and get to the introduction of our speakers. So let me ask you just a couple questions before we move on, Bill. Why is it so important to get employers engaged and organized and working together? I'd like you to just drill down on that a little bit for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, Courtney, the RITE at its inception was really started by employers, and a little more color on that. It was intended to respond to a request from the Board of Regents in the state of Ohio around what it would take to build talent in Northeast Ohio, and the challenges that we all have filling roles in our organizations. And that's fundamentally why we're here, is to help orchestrate programs, sustainable activities that help each of us be more successful at driving talent and building talent in the region. Now, I want to add one other component of that as an employer, we are certainly incented and driven by our individual companies or organizations, but there is more to what we do in the community than running our own companies. And you can see that with the way many organizations have stepped up to address this digital divide. And I think part of our role as IT leaders is to support our profession and ultimately support a very inclusive and diverse workforce, one that gives opportunities to many. And I think we can have a more cohesive approach and have more impact with more employers essentially part of those decisions and directions that we invest in the community, and we'll make more progress around both objectives: filling open roles in our organization, finding the right talent, working with the universities, colleges, and those that are certified, those that are being re-educated, but also to really make an impact in the community to the underserved and help a broader populace serve that big gap and fill that big gap of open roles.
Thank you. So one of the things we talk about in terms of how we engage companies, a little bit, am I sounding echoey? All right.
It was probably coming from me. I muted.
Okay. We've tried to break things down for companies so they can understand how to get involved with the work of RITE or educational workforce in general, your GCP. And we think about it in three ways. One is leadership. So your role and others on the regional leadership board is instrumental, because it's really thought leadership, investors, people who really want to drive that collective action. And then there are others who want to get behind the programs and provide sponsorships, and those are welcome as well. That's critically important to any endeavor. And right smack in the middle is all the involvement opportunities. And I'd like you to just spend a minute on the extent to which you've been able to engage and rally your troops, because as Shauna said, it has been very generous in terms of the commitment your team has made, but it's the only way we can bring IT careers to life with people that work with you, that are, you know, Len and Dale and Ken. So
yeah, this is it's a great question, Courtney, and a great point. And Shauna said this well, in that when you get right down to who does much of the work in supporting RITE and the different activities, whether it's sharing career experiences, whether it's hosting a group of high schoolers or those that are thinking about going to college, whether it's doing a presentation at any kind of event on what we do in IT and sharing the opportunities that we've all had and the terrific career paths that we've been on, that's where my team has played an important role. I've probably had somewhere between, and I have 150 people, 160 people in Cleveland that work on my team. They've been more than generous with their time because they want to do it. They love talking about what we do, right? And they've been instrumental in sharing those experiences sharing how to interview, all kinds of different programs that are part of RITE and the region in helping youth really get an understanding for what it means to be in IT, because most of them think still, if you're in 7th and 8th grade or you're younger, it's these things that's IT. And there's such a variety, as all of you know, in the roles and opportunities that we've had. And I've been very fortunate with my team to have a group that's been very supportive of participating on those. At the same time, Ethan has been extremely supportive of sponsoring events across the region. So I think that's a big part of who we are as an organization, how we think about the community. And there's no doubt that information technology is one of the key threads in Northeast Ohio to build prosperity, build the region, and attract new companies here. We have to have a better pipeline of workforce to really make it an attractive region for others to move into. So again, it's just an opportunity to have a great team, to be honest, Courtney.
Thank you. So the last question I want to ask you is a little bit of a lead in to the introduction of Heather and Chris. And you know, as we've had the opportunity to work together for 10 years, we've experienced quite a bit of dynamism in our milieu of educational workforce, with organizations getting in the game, so to speak, of trying to tackle this IT skills gap. And I guess what I'd like you to do is talk a little bit about the importance of collaboration inter-organizationally, and how encouraged you are that many of the organizations that we are now working with closely are very intentionally working with us and we with them, such as Northeast Ohio Cybersecurity Consortium, or SIMCLE, who now actually have representation on our board and take it quite seriously that we are in this together. Could you speak a little bit about the importance of that?
Yeah, I can. And certainly this is one of the most amazing things. I didn't grow up in Cleveland or Northeast Ohio, I'm not originally from the area. But if you look at the strength and the philanthropic kind of ecosystem that exists in Cleveland and Northeast Ohio, with the support of organizations like GCP or the Chamber, it is phenomenal. And many of them, as you aptly point out, Northeast Ohio Cyber Consortium and SIM, others, have their roots in information technology. It's a phenomenal group of resources. And I think, interestingly, that's where the power is. That's where the power is to make a difference. That is also at times where we conflict with each other. So if we can all get behind, at least from a workforce development perspective, the key metrics, the key beacons that we're trying to achieve, and all march toward it, all support it, will make a dramatic impact on the region and the workforce broadly. And that's the plus of having so many resources, that if we can get them, the whole ecosystem really challenged with making a significant impact on workforce, we'll just have a dramatic impact. And it is really important. I mean, RITE isn't going to do everything, nor do we want to. We can certainly be an organization that brings other parties to the table, set the stage, and a sector leader, as we're designated through Workforce Connect. But really, it's going to take all the community organizations, the educators, as well as most of the companies in the region to really make a difference. And that's what's fun about being part of RITE and working with you over the last 10 years. It's not always easy, but it's the right way to go about it.
Pun intended.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right, so what I'd like to do now is, without further ado, introduce our colleagues from Colorado. So not only do we have a broad network within our region and even across the state, we are now developing relationships across the country. I'm pleased to be a part of an organization, as is Doug Wenger, called the TECNA. And through that, it's a National Association of Tech Councils. I've had the good fortune of being able to meet folks doing some pretty innovative work in Colorado. So we appreciate Chris and Heather joining us. It's early in Colorado. We know they're juiced up with their coffee. So thanks again for joining us. Heather Trenzio and Chris Magyar are both with Tectonic, but certainly have broader roles similar to Bill in their regional and state communities. Heather, as CEO and founder, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background in Tectonic?
Sure. Again, I'm Heather Terenzia, CEO and founder of Tectonic. Tectonic's been around for 14 years now, and I personally started as a civil engineer. That was my graduate degree was in civil engineering, and I took a few software development classes, and about a year into my career as a civil engineer, I noticed that there were some software projects going on at our firm, and I got really interested in those. And before long, I was doing nothing but software projects at that company, and decided that I loved software much more than civil engineering. And so it always stuck with me that, you know, people do make these kinds of career pivots, and that if I could be a software engineer, even though that's not what my degree was in, that other people could probably make that kind of pivot as well. And so as we were building Tectonic, we started as pure software development company, but we also pivoted into talent development. And I'll let Chris talk a little bit to the talent development piece of what we do. So thank you for having me here today.
You're muted, Courtney.
Yeah.
You're on mute, Courtney.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Heather. Chris, I'd like you to do just a brief introduction. Don't go into the weeds yet on the apprenticeship. Specifically, I'd like to start back with Heather and talk big picture.
Great. Well, appreciate the opportunity to speak at your summit today. My name is Chris Magyar, and I'm Chief Apprenticeship Officer with Tectonic. I joined Heather back in 2016. My background into tech was the old traditional way. I went to college for management information systems, and way back in the dinosaur days, moved into working on mainframes, COBOL, CICS, and you know, I've taken the more traditional route. And most of my experience post being a hands-on developer has been in the IT services industry, in talent generation. And when I had the opportunity to meet Heather, and she told me she had a software developer apprenticeship program, I'm like, a what? And that was my first exposure to apprenticeships. And it was just a great opportunity to leverage my years of experience in tech, hiring talent, providing talent to companies, providing projects to companies in a new and unique way through apprenticeship. And again, I jumped on board in 2016 to help her grow and launch the program.
Thank you. So Heather, what I'd like to talk to you about is some of the broader work that you've been a part of in the state and in the region. As we've been talking this morning, we've been talking a lot about the sector partnership model. And we know that Colorado has been at the forefront of the development of sector partnerships, which when we think about sector partnership, it really is, simply put, a collaboration of employers working across industries with all the organizations within our ecosystem that Bill has mentioned. And I think, you know, simply put, at their maximum effectiveness, sector partnerships can really facilitate career advancement for all workers. So if you could talk a little bit about what is happening in Colorado through Tech Talent Colorado, and certainly involve Chris, because I know Chris is involved in the Boulder partnership. We'd love to hear about what you're doing out there.
Sure, I'll talk to it from a governor perspective and let Chris talk to the Tech Talent sector partnerships. But I'm on the governor's Workforce Development Council and have been for the past couple of years. And Colorado's always thinking a lot about what the future of our employers are going to need and our employees are going to need, and make sure that they have the right training to sustain the talent and the employers that we have here in town, because we're constantly having new companies move here from Silicon Valley. So it's really important that we're a couple steps ahead and that we keep that tech talent growth. But the governor appointed this council. I was appointed under John Hickenlooper, and now it's Jared Polis. But the vision is that every Colorado employer has access to a skilled workforce, and every Coloradan has the opportunity for meaningful employment. And so we have programs in place like apprenticeships across the trades, as well as in technology, We have representatives from every kind of business, from telecom to oil and gas to mining, just to make sure that nobody is overlooked in our community, and that there's a pathway for everybody, whether you just have a college, some college, complete college degree, just high school, whatever that is, that you have some kind of a pathway to a meaningful career. And so that's what we focus on. We meet quarterly. We work on budgets, we work on grants, and we work on how we can get employers together to make sure that all these initiatives are pushed forward.
So Heather, you saw that we're kind of forging ahead with our next frontier in terms of measurable outcomes, and I'm wondering to what extent you all are doing that out there. Do you have specific KPIs? Are there specific things that you're managing and measuring at a state level, at a regional level?
We do look at it on a state level, but I'll actually throw it over to Chris because his statistics are more specific to what they do on a regional level. So
okay,
that would be a good segue to hand it over to Chris.
All right, Chris, could you talk about what you're doing there regionally in Boulder?
Yeah, so we started a tech sector partnership, the Boulder Broomfield Tech Sector Partnership, in late 2018. The first tech sector partnership was actually in Denver. Heather was one of the first co-chairs. I was one of the first members. It was called the Denver Metro Tech Partnership. And I think for all of us back then is like, what the heck is a tech sector partnership? You know, why do the employers sit in the middle? Why do the employers only speak? There's workforce, there's education. But I think as we began to learn about tech sector partnerships, we really saw the value of getting all the ears and voices in a room together. Because a lot of what I saw when I first came on board with Heather and started getting into this workforce space is that there were a lot of different organizations creating a lot of different programs that nobody knew about. You know, we created this program, but no one's hiring our students. No one's hiring our certificate earners. And I think a lot of that was because so many of the programs weren't employer driven. And I think with the tech sector partnership being driven by employers and the workforce and educators listening to what's needed, it's become more of an effective model. So in Boulder, we launched this in late 2018. You know, it took some time to get up to speed in terms of finding employers to join the program. Workforce and education were on board because they were anxious to get to the employers. And what we really focused on in 2019, which provided a lot of value to our employers in the partnership in Boulder, was education. And that was education on internships, education on apprenticeships, education on how to hire the over 50 population, which is a great part of the population up in Boulder. And we really began to really get some great momentum. And in fact, in Colorado, the Denver Metro Tech Partnership and the Boulder Broomfield Tech Partnership, since it's all about tech, we, not being marketers, but we decided to rebrand ourselves into Tech Talent Colorado Denver, Tech Talent Colorado Boulder. And now both groups are working together on like programs, sharing stats, sharing information, and you know, we're beginning to make some great progress. At our sector partnership level in Boulder, we are beginning to identify the KPIs we want to track for that sector partnership. And you know, we'll hopefully be putting that model in place as we go into 2021 to show the impact of the sector partnership.
Could you speak a little bit about some of your specific metrics, the kinds of things you're talking about?
Within Tectonic? Mm-hmm. Or within the partnership?
Within the tech sector partnership.
Yeah, I mean, within the tech sector partnerships, some of the KPIs that we're looking at are, again, number of apprenticeships, number of internships available, number of students, individuals who enter those programs, number of individuals who finish, the number of certifications achieved, and most importantly, the number of jobs or employment that those programs led to for our members.
Okay, great. So what has been the hardest thing that you've had to do in terms of coalescing employers in this broader ecosystem?
You know, I think probably the toughest part is just as Heather and I, you know, 3-4 years ago didn't know what a tech sector partnership was, is educating the employer base, the workforce base on what a tech sector partnership is, and showing them the value of participating, right? The larger the employer base, the more successful the tech sector partnership is going to be. I know within Denver, because I participate in both, I co-chair Tech Talent Boulder. I participate in Tech Talent Denver. A group of employers are trying to start an internship funnel per se in terms of setting up programs and potentially apprenticeships, not DOL registered apprenticeships, opportunities for individuals within their different companies. So a lot of it in terms of getting the ball rolling is getting those employers to come to the first meeting, showing them the value so they return. So within both tech sector partnerships, the meetings are quarterly. So again, for us as co-chairs, continuing to get the word out. We've got an amazing convener in Boulder with the Boulder Chamber of Commerce in terms of Corinne Waldo. She's been awesome in terms of being the communication, the glue that keeps this organization together. But we're still working on getting broadening the employer base for both partnerships, because that's where the momentum really happens.
Bill, you've heard that terminology glue before. You're prone to saying that. Yeah. So I was struck, Chris, by just the maybe implicit comment you were making about, the fact that you need to create kind of a common language between employers and educators that, as a longtime workforce development practitioner, we can get into our gobbledygooks in lots of acronyms. And even that, just that term sector partnership, what the heck does that mean? I think one of the simple points of confusion is that people often think immediately to an industry sector, and what we know is tech talent cuts across all industries, so really it's an occupational sector that we're rallying around. So, and Heather, you obviously mentioned that you've got a broad breadth of folks involved. So let me ask you, what has been not so much hard, but what's been the most surprising thing, Heather, about the work that you've done over the years within your community and more broadly with the state?
I think the most interesting thing is how we went from a community that prides ourselves in 4-year degrees and this very consistent, normalized process of getting into the workforce to being much more open about different kinds of talent and looking at people's skills rather than just their credentials. And I mean, I think that came because there's such a talent shortage here in Colorado. I think for software developers, the unemployment rate has consistently, even through COVID, been less than 2%. So people are having to get a lot more creative around finding talent and who they consider talent. HR departments have had to open up their thinking quite a bit. And when Chris and I started this a long time ago, a lot of employers were like 4-year degree or nothing. Like that's all we look for. That's what we screen for. And now they look for boot camps. They look for just, consolidated learning around software development, skills-based programs. And so it's been really great and surprising. And, it's all these partnerships and collaborations that have really helped employers to come out of their shells and to think a lot differently about who they hire and why they hire them and the skill sets that they could bring.
Bill, could you jump in there in terms of what you've been thinking about within Eaton? We've been talking about this in terms of the degree inflation in some cases where job descriptions are very old and really don't represent what the true requirements are for the role, but you've talked about it.
Yeah, I think Heather raises a really important point in that the way she described companies of the past and thinking about hiring tech talent was exactly the case. And necessity and need, it opens people's minds around really are those, frankly, artificial and unneeded barriers necessary? And so looking talent through a different lens on talent, thinking about it in regards to skills, training, or even taking responsibility for some of that training, and recognizing that someone has aptitude and interest and capabilities is clearly something that I'm seeing in Eaton as well, especially in technology roles. many in software development, in network support, all kinds of different roles that really are changing the way we think about where we go to find that talent and not relying just on those that have four-year degrees. So I think Heather's right on with regards to the trends. And it's a bit of necessity. I mean, just look at the number of open roles again that we talked about earlier. It's really the only way to help quickly fill that void.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming from
oh, go ahead, Chris, please.
Prior to coming to Tectonic, spent a number of years leading IT staffing firms, and when working with clients, those, the infamous four-year degree required. And not to pick on any HR folks or talent acquisition folks in your audience, but I think a lot of ways it was a screen out rather than a screen in. As we've all seen, and Heather and I often say some of the most talented tech people that I've worked with or hired don't have a four-year degree, but they've got, mad skills and experience. And that's really what makes them successful.
So I appreciate the comment. So where I was going to go is, so one of the things that we've been learning, RITE stood up something we call the HRIT Roundtable a couple of years ago. And this is in fact a group of folks that are HR, talent acquisition recruiters. And it's been a very effective group in that not only have they been able to help RITE make sense of labor market data that we need to really make meaning out of. Job postings are one thing, but when we really, dig into it with recruiters, they help us understand it. But what we've learned is that we really need to facilitate the nexus between the HR and the talent acquisition folks and people like you who are on the tech side, the tech leadership side. And so we are organizing a workshop in October as a part of the kickoff of our sector partnership to facilitate a communal session between CTOs, CIOs, CISOs, and our HRIT roundtable. We have a featured speaker who has developed a presentation called Measuring the Immeasurable. And it's all around talent acquisition and recruiting and hiring and advancing individuals within organizations. My question to all of you would be, how would you, or what would you recommend to us to help companies start to accelerate the adoption of more skills-based hiring practices? What do we need to do to help companies take that on?
I think a lot of it, around apprenticeship, which is, our core, is really just educating talent ac, HR, and even IT on what apprenticeships are about, right? I mean, when you say the word apprenticeship, to most people, you think of the traditional blue-collar trades of plumbing, electrical, welding. And, I found coming on board with Tectonic and working the network CTA events, it's really that education on what apprenticeship is about and how apprenticeships are actually measured, how they're conducted, and what the end result is. Ours is a competency-based apprenticeship. So our apprentices in our 2,000-hour apprenticeship not only have to successfully complete a very rigorous 12-week classroom session, then they move to the floor where they work as a software developer, automated QA, product manager. They have to perform working on our client projects under the mentorship and coaching of our senior leaders. They have to complete a competency doc, which is to quantify it, about 6 pages of technical work they have to do, and then complete the 2,000 hours of employment with Tectonic. And when you get an ear of someone to walk through what I just described, even a little deeper with what goes on, it's like you can see a light bulb go on, and I always say we're not trying to replace any of the talent acquisition lanes of internal recruiters using external recruiters, internships, or college programs, but add an additional lane of apprenticeship to your talent acquisition strategy. And one of the things, we had a conversation this week, we have one client in Denver, a fintech company, huge company. They've taken 12 of our apprentices in the last year. Every company that has taken one of our apprentices on a contract to hire or off a project that we did has come back for more apprentices. So sometimes it's that education, getting someone to take a chance on an individual who's come through a different skill path to see what the result is. So
I appreciate all the details you started to provide about the apprenticeship, and we're definitely going to dig a little bit deeper. So what I'm hearing you say is that fundamentally an apprenticeship model is a skills-based endeavor.
Yes.
Okay. And so, Heather, do you have any thoughts for us in terms of how we really help companies broadly think about more relaxed requirements around degrees and more of a focus on putting skills first?
You know, Chris and I both do speaking all over the country. We're all about education. You know, there's statistics out there that 40% of people who go to college for one thing actually pivot into a different kind of career. And once you start like getting people to think about, well, what did you actually go to college for? And what are you actually doing today? And that it's almost never correlates between I was an English major and now I'm an English professor, or just getting them to think differently about how their own career. And actually that's kind of how it started for us, is that we were sitting around a table talking about all the different pathways that we took into software development. And you know, you don't need a college degree to be a really good software developer. You just really need to love software development. And that's what apprenticeships really enhance, is that you're learning side by side with more senior level developers. And what usually winds up happening is, even if you come out of college with a 4-year degree in computer science, you still spend 6 months on the job learning from someone more senior about that particular tech stack. So the person who went to college has $100,000 in debt, whereas the person going through an apprenticeship program is well on their way to a great career and has no debt. So I think, especially with COVID today, people are rethinking how they hire, how they get into the workforce. The whole world has been disrupted right now. And so employers are ripe for thinking about things a little bit differently. And we've actually found that just in the past couple of months, that employers are coming to us saying, traditional hiring is out the window right now. We want to be thinking about new ways to hire, and they're coming to us a lot more regularly to think about how they're going to hire for their next wave of tech talent.
Bill, any thoughts from you in terms of how we work with our companies and bridge that gap between kind of the technology side and the HR side around putting skills first?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the interesting things about, and I know you're going to talk about this, Courtney, about the model that Chris and Heather has put in place, is it allows organizations to understand this by trying it. In other words, the advantage of not having every company figure out an apprentice program and the processes and best practices exist within Chris's organization, within Heather's organization, and we can try with our HR teams, our IT teams, and experience this without building all the capabilities and then hire someone. It is a super model, and it's why I was so impressed with their organization, the way they thought about it. Heather said several times sitting around, how might this work? That model is really interesting because it takes the onus off of every company figuring this out. And I can think of no better way to quickly step into it, to dip your toe on it, to really understand it well. Without a big, really internal investment. And so I think it's a super way to kind of build that understanding across not only IT, but HR as well. I think it's fantastic.
All right, so what I'd like to do is shift a little bit now and go deeper into the apprenticeship model with you all, and tell you that we certainly within Northeast Ohio are blessed with resources. Within the state, there's an entity called Apprenti that is working in the in Columbus and in Cincinnati, who facilitate apprenticeships for companies. They have a very concrete model, and it takes a lot of the onus off the company so that they can in fact experience it. And then we also have Youngstown State IT Workforce Accelerator working with IBM, standing up a new coalition with employers and educators to build out an apprenticeship model. And we certainly appreciate the value, see it working around the country. Now we're learning more about the model that Tectonic has. And we think it's a very compelling opportunity for us potentially within the IT sector partnership. So Chris, why don't you, if you could, just maybe step back, give a little bit more of an overview of the apprenticeship. You got into some details there, but just to make sure that everybody understands what it is that you're doing, I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah, so our apprenticeship is a DOL registered apprenticeship. We received our DOL registration in 2016. And one of the main drivers that, Heather wanted is what we talked about is how can we train, new talent in a new way. And also part of the mission, relayed to me when I started is, really how can we increase inclusion and diversity in tech by providing a new on-ramp into tech from, traditional measures, as we talked about, of college. So there are no prerequisites for our apprenticeship. There's no post-secondary education, no previous work experience, no training that someone has to take. And what we're really looking for and screening for is potential. We look for people who have a passion for technology, a persistent personality, critical thinking skills, and the ability to communicate and collaborate. And so it's open to all and open to everyone. And our apprenticeship consists of, again, it's a 2,000-hour apprenticeship, 12 weeks of classroom training conducted by our instructors. It's full-time, 8 hours a day. And what really makes us different and reduces all the barriers to entry for someone to get into tech is that our apprenticeship is paid from the first hour of training. So someone who's looking to gain technical skills but needs an income, they can't write a check for a boot camp. They've got to work during the day. The beauty of apprenticeship is it accomplishes both classroom training and on-the-job training. So they're paid from the first hour they're in the classroom. If they successfully complete the 12-week apprenticeship classroom training, they move on to our development floor. And that's where they receive their workplace learning for the next 9 months. And what's really cool at Tectonic, and again, we've been doing this for 4 years and it's morphed, but under our DOL apprenticeship, we actually are creating software developers, automated QA individuals, and product managers. So they're all under the software development apprenticeship. They all have to do the same work, the competencies, but there are different paths within the organization that all require coding knowledge. And then as Tectonic, as a software development company, gets projects for a client, those apprentices are assigned to a development team. That's where they're coached and mentored. And they are assigned tasks, software development tasks, just as our mid and senior level developers are. And they're participating in the stand-ups. They are part of the team from the get-go. And that's where we really see people accelerate and grow, is that hands-on experience of taking ownership, taking responsibility for a set of tasks, to doing a quality job, to get it done in a timely manner. And that work continues till the completion of the apprenticeship. And what's nice for our apprentices is there are salaried job opportunities, not only with Tectonic. So someone stays with us, they complete the 2,000 hours as as an hourly employee, they can be hired by Tectonic. But also the way our model works, that if an apprentice or apprentices work on one of our projects for our clients and they bill 1,000 hours, our client can actually hire that apprentice for free. So we are not only creating talent for Tectonic, but we're creating talent for the entire market. Another way companies engage with us is they will hire our apprentices on a contract to hire basis to augment their team. And if those apprentices bill for 1,000 hours with that client can hire that apprentice for free. So, through this process, the last 4 years, we've had 125 apprentices come into our program. We've got about a 72% completion rate of the entire 2,000 hours. We talked about diversity and inclusion. 31% of our apprentices are women compared to industry average of software developers of 7.5%, and 36% of our apprentices are individuals of color compared to about 10% of all software developers. So, by removing all the barriers, by promoting the fact that we're trying to reach out to underserved populations, we have enough quality candidates come in to our vetting process, which can take 2 to 4 weeks to get through. So we've got great results on our diversity. And that really has changed our company also, because you have this diverse population on the floor. They're looking through a different lens than white middle class America, and it really helps with our problem solving. It helps with what we are as a company, and it's really inbred in the culture of Tectonic that we welcome a diverse population, regardless of anybody's background, race, socioeconomic status, gender, and it's made us a much better company.
Now,
From
go ahead, Heather.
the employer side, that when an employer comes to us looking for talent, it truly is, as Bill mentioned earlier, risk-free. So they get to work with that apprentice for 1,000 hours before they make a decision whether to hire them or not. So it's 1,000 hours of them contracting on a project for them internally. They work with them. So it's this, it's lower cost than actually hiring a recruiter. It's risk-free. And so, part of our sales pitch is just give this way of hiring a try. Try us with one person, try us with 2 people. And as Chris mentioned earlier, 100% of our clients who've tried us with one person have come back for more. And every time they need junior to mid-level talent, they'll call us and say, we need 3 more SDETs or 3 more software developers, and they just call us and we send people over. And we're even at the point with our clients where we don't even have interviews. We just have meet and greets, because we set the baseline. If this is the skill set they're going to have, we know that they're going to be good employees because we've trained them on all the soft skills as well. And so the client knows exactly what they're going to get.
Right.
Hey, can I jump in here, Courtney, and ask a question, because that's really helpful. And I want to ask one question of Chris and Heather, because I've worked with a prior organization that had a similar model but not the same. And I want to ask you a question, and you just hit on it, Heather. Many of the underserved have difficult home circumstances. They have, you said it, Chris, other demands. And this idea of paying as you're going through training was actually an element of the other organization as well. And I'm curious, you said it, I think, Heather, balancing life skills, communication skills, how to dress, just kind of other basic things. Is that part of what you do as well? I'm just trying to understand how you balance tech training, software development with other education. Do you bring that in as well? And I'm just curious how you think about it.
We do. I mean, Chris starts it with, you showing up 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, every single day. We need a written excuse if you're not going to make it on any one of those days. So we set the standard there for how to show up on time. But then actually when you hit the floor, which to us means you actually start working on client projects and developing with clients, then it gets reinforced again through working with teams, agile processes, how to communicate with your coworkers, how to write a good email, all that kind of stuff is ongoing coaching that happens all the time. And we learned long ago not to take for granted what people think or feel about the workplace. And so now we've gotten a lot more formal around how we teach that kind of stuff. I don't know if you want to.
That's awesome.
Because several of our apprentices, this is the first time they've been in an office job or a white collar job. And, it is a new environment for them, because again, if you look at the range of apprentices that have come through our program, it's been baristas, construction, living on mom's couch. Everything and anything. So there is that discipline that we start, as Heather mentioned, in the classroom, which means if class starts at 8:30, you don't show up at 8:25, take your coat off and say, I'll be right back to get a cup of coffee. It's how do you speak to your peers? It's working as a team. And, from those sort of life soft skills, also we have supportive services from the workforce. So if an individual qualifies for the supportive services of anything from gas cards, bus cards, glasses, everyone, we have a strong ecosystem that really helps guarantee and helps with someone's success. And that partnership with the workforce, with CDLE, Colorado Department of Labor Employment, has really been key to the strong foundation of our apprenticeship.
That's super. Thanks for sharing that, because I think that's such an important balance and point around how you've been successful. It's great to hear. So thank you.
So I'm curious if, this is an established apprenticeship program, it's growing, you've got the model down, probably thinking about the next frontier. I'm wondering if you've thought about pre-apprenticeship programs or building out a high school pipeline as a part of what you're doing?
Yeah.
Can you talk
Yeah,
about that?
we started this off with a pre-apprenticeship before we moved to a full apprenticeship. But right now, we are working on some partnership agreements with community college system. Some community colleges here in Colorado have received some DOL funding and would love to work with us on some pre-apprenticeship training to help build a better pipeline for us. Also potentially some micro credentials. That is something we're working on. The beauty of the Colorado community college system is it's very nimble, it's mobile, they can move quick, and they've been a great partner of ours. In fact, our program was submitted to the Colorado community college system, and starting in 2021, if someone completes our apprenticeship program, they could earn up to 39 credits within the Colorado community college system. So that's sort of some icing on the cake. But and also we're looking to where do we want to be, where do we need to be at the end of 2021, 2022, and we're going to be taking some measures where we can take some of our curriculum, make it available in an online manner, recorded manner, so we can provide some immersion to high schoolers, to others who just want to get a taste of technology and see if they're interested. So it's definitely something that we're working on now, right this year with the community college level.
I would just say that I think the point you made about the partnership with community colleges is very applicable here. We have a robust community college system, amazing institutions doing innovative work. And while we know that employers are, in fact, to some extent, starting to relax degree requirements, we do think that if you can integrate the college credit into the work-based learning, whether it is apprenticeship or internship, I think transcriptable credit, I think, is a real value, not just icing on the cake. You probably agree. You mentioned that the access point on the front end is very open, but I would presume you have some kind of assessment or aptitude test or something that would help. Can you talk about what you do there?
I'll give you the cursory view. We have a 10-step process because, again, we're screening for potential. 10 step, yes. And as Bill said, everybody wants to get into tech, right? They've got a phone, right? They look on some of the websites, the career sites. They say, "Oh my God, a software developer, 2 years experience, 3 years experience. I'm making $100,000. I want to do this," right? So we have anywhere from 300 to 400 applicants for every 20-person cohort. So we go through a number of steps, an online application that's very detailed. We use a third-party assessment tool that gives us a score on and input on their personality characteristics, as well as their critical thinking. And as I mentioned, there's no prerequisite to get into our program. So step 3 is what we call our pre-work. And we send out some detailed instructions. We have applicants take some online courses that are free. They write some code. They create a GitHub or a repository. We look at that code. We send them a mini project that they have 3 days to do to replicate a website page. If that looks good, we do an online coding test in JavaScript. Again, everything that they need to do, they can learn even if they've never touched code before. Based on how those assessments work, we do a phone screen, then we do a face-to-face interview, make our decisions on hiring. So for someone who's never touched code before, that pre-work, steps 3, 4, and 5 can take someone up to, we give them 2 weeks. It's not 40 hours worth of work, but we give them 2 weeks to do it. And this really helps not only Tectonic see, hey, this individual has some potential, but it also helps those individuals who think they want a career in tech or they wanted to be a software developer, and we hear them say, "Oh my gosh, I couldn't do this 8 hours a day." So it sort of self-screens them out, but it really provides that mechanism to someone who's never touched code before, to someone who maybe has taken a college course, to someone who's been a hobby coder or home coder. They all go through the same process. And along with just the ability to tackle that technical knowledge or that assimilate that knowledge and show us, we measure everything through the process. How do they communicate with us? Do they ask a lot of questions when the information is available to them? Because obviously we're looking for someone who not only can assimilate the technical knowledge in the apprenticeship, but also who's going to be a good employee, who's got those good employee skills that we can grow from. And as you mentioned earlier, we talked about everyone's got a story. I mean, the stories we hear about the life challenges that some of our apprentices face. I mean, sometimes you're like, oh my God, if you can get through this, you can make it through the apprenticeship. And we always say we find these diamonds in the rough, these individuals who are gritty and will, damn the torpedoes, I'm going to make this a success, because it is. We tell them the classroom is one of the hardest things they're ever going to do. We have vets tell us, I went to boot camp, I did this. By the 6th week of the class, their eyes are foggy. They're like, this is tough, because we want to create a high bar for those individuals coming out of the classroom to be successful on our dev floor. So, again, we've morphed this, that we just launched our 11th cohort. We learn every time about how do we vet, how do we market, what do we do in the classroom, and as Bill mentioned, it's tough. It's tough. We've learned a lot of lessons managing our business, working with the DOL, working with the workforce about how to make this program successful. But I got to tell you, Heather and I always say at the these panels that for us, being in the industry, it's really one of the most rewarding things I've ever done when people thank you for their jobs, thank you for changing their lives.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So I had one last technical question about the apprenticeship. To what extent do you incorporate the industry certifications? You mentioned micro credentials. Are they actually earning and sitting and getting those industry certs as well, or?
I'll be honest with you, within software development, there really aren't any good third party. But what and remember, if they complete the 2,000-hour apprenticeship, that is a certificate of completion of apprenticeship from the DOL. That's a national certification. But what we're doing is what industry is doing. We're going to be implementing digital credentials. So we are going to set up our own digital credentials once they complete the classroom and other competencies on the floor. And so the beauty of digital credentials using a platform that we're going to use is that if Bill wants to take a look at some Tectonic apprentices, he can look at their digital credential, actually go behind the scenes to see what someone had to do to earn that credential. And that gives it a lot more weight, that rather than somebody just failed. Because again, in software development, I've looked at them all, they're very weak as compared to infrastructure, cloud, cyber, those are very strong.
Thank you. So we're coming to the end here, and I guess what I'd like to ask our guests from Colorado, as we start to extend our work and go deeper into the sector partnership space, particularly around creating on-ramps for working adults or high school graduates who are workforce bound. What one recommendation would you give us that will help ensure our success?
It's not a straight line from where we started to where we are today. We've pivoted a lot along the way. We've learned a lot along the way as well. But, my advice is always just get started and learn and grow, fail fast, move on to the next idea, but just be really agile and open to changing pretty quickly. I mean, Chris and I, this thing pivots all the time, and we get better about recruiting, we get better about screening, we get better about the classroom, we get better about the transition to the floor, we get better about the transition to our employers. There's a lot of moving pieces in all this. There's no one playbook for all of it, but it's really just about getting started, and that's the hardest part.
Thanks. Chris, anything to add?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it's, learning from like what we're doing. And again, make myself available to your group in the future. I do this in the past. Something to think about too, actually did some consulting for a group in Birmingham, Alabama, and they created a sector partnership, like a joint apprenticeship with multiple employers, stepping up, putting some skin in the game, and working together, even though Bill's probably trying to steal from the company on the block and vice versa, but they came together to say, hey, there's power in the number of employers, and what can we do together to create an apprenticeship that's going to benefit us all. So like you say, I could spell apprenticeship when I first started. It does take time, and there are a lot of resources out there that you can tap into, but stay the course, because it will be successful.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to have forged a friendship with you all. We can assure you we'll be in touch. So thank you very much. We're going to wrap it up here. Bill, would you like to say any closing remarks before I wrap it up?
No, just to emphasize what you said, Courtney, Heather, Chris, thanks a lot for sharing your perspective and kind of educating us on what you're doing. It really is helpful to understand the model you have, and it'll be interesting to think through how we move in this direction in Northeast Ohio too. So thanks again for spending the time with us. I know you're all busy, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now off to your official workday that begins, right? All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.
I'd like to thank all of our speakers, Bill, Shauna, Doug, Jessica. I apologize for the tech glitches. We're delighted to have you all here participating in today's RITE Summit. Please don't forget, we hope you will take a few minutes to explore the new resources on OhioRITE.com. If you are already engaged with RITE, we'll see you soon. If you are not, please join us. Don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. cdiorio@gcpartnership.com. We'd like to end now with a preview of Explore IT. Please note it will take a minute to load this video. Check it out. This concludes today's session. Thank you very much.
Finding information about IT careers and opportunities can be challenging, sometimes overwhelming. Information like career possibilities, educational options, training opportunities, programs and events, labor market data, in-demand tech jobs. With so many resources, how do you find what you need? We have the answer. Explore IT, the best source for information on IT careers in Northeast Ohio. Here's how it works. It's like Google, and that easy. Just enter what you want to find into the search box, and you'll get page after page full of results. There are also special links to popular resources. Explore IT, brought to you by GCP RITE, developed by students from Cleveland State University. Coming this December to your desktop and home screen. Explore IT.